Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never imagined that a single conversation could shatter the life I had meticulously built. My name is Emily, and for the past 5 years, I have been tangled in a relationship with Daniel, a man who, by all accounts, seemed steady, dependable, and impossible not to love. But lately, the spark that once set my heart ablaze had dimmed, leaving behind only exhaustion and a gnawing sense of suffocation. It wasn't that Daniel was bad. He was kind, thoughtful, endlessly patient. But the life we shared had somehow become a cage, gilded yet confining, and I had begun to feel trapped. It started subtly, as these things often do. A smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, a hug that lingered only briefly, a laugh that felt rehearsed. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was stress, work, the general wear and tear of adulthood. But every small withdrawal from him felt like a crack forming in the foundation of my heart. And so, that evening, when I looked at him across the table, watching him stir his tea absent-mindedly, I knew the time had come to be honest, even if honesty hurt both of us. "Daniel," I began, my voice soft but firm. I could see him tense immediately, a slight stiffening of his shoulders, the way his fingers tightened around the spoon. "I think we should end things." For a moment, the room seemed to freeze. The ticking of the wall clock became deafening. He didn't react instantly. He just looked at me, eyes wide, mouth slightly parted, as though he were trying to understand if I had truly said what I said. I expected protest, tears, a desperate attempt to cling to the fragile threads of us. But Daniel didn't move, didn't speak. And in that suspended silence, I felt a cold, terrifying clarity. He had taken me at my word. "I understand," he said finally, his voice calm, almost eerily so. "If this is what you want, I'll respect it." Respect it? The word struck me harder than any argument, any outburst, any fight I had ever endured. There was no pleading, no bargaining, no last-ditch effort. He had simply absorbed the sentence like it was a matter of fact, like he had been preparing for this moment all along. And then, as quietly as a shadow slipping from the corner of the room, he stood up, gathered his coat, and walked out. I remember the exact way he left. Deliberate, composed, leaving the apartment door to click softly behind him, a sound that now felt like a punctuation mark on our entire story. I sank into the chair, staring at the empty space where it stood, the air suddenly too heavy to breathe. Shock gave way to a peculiar mixture of relief and grief, an unsettling duality that churned in my stomach. I hadn't realized until that moment how much of me had been entwined with him. The mornings we had shared, the nights spent talking about nothing and everything, the dreams we had once whispered each other, gone. And yet, paradoxically, a part of me, the part that had been quietly drowning in our sameness, felt a strange sense of liberation. Over the next few days, the apartment felt alien. Daniel's absence was a living presence, echoing in every corner, every room, in the silence where his voice used to linger. Friends called, cautiously at first, then more frequently as they noticed the void. "Are you okay?" they asked, and I lied. I said yes, because how could I explain that I both mourned and celebrated, grieved and relieved simultaneously? I began to notice the little things I had ignored for years. The way he left his coffee cups on the counter, the worn-out slippers by the door, the faint scent of his cologne that still lingered in the bedroom. Each artifact was a ghost, a reminder of what I had chosen to leave, and yet also of what he left behind for me. There was no malice in his departure, no dramatic confrontation, only the quiet execution of a decision made with absolute clarity. And then, the memories started to surface, unbidden and relentless. The time we had spent at the lake cabin, where he had caught me staring at the stars and smiled with a warmth that had once made the world feel infinite. The evening he had made me breakfast in bed, just because he knew I had stayed up too late working. The nights we had laughed until we couldn't breathe, tangled in blankets, promising we would always be each other's person. They were all here, lingering in the air like smoke after a fire, beautiful and destructive at once. By the fourth day, I realized I had done something irreversible. Daniel had not begged me to stay. He had simply stepped out and given me the gift, or perhaps the curse, of finality. And in that finality, I felt the weight of responsibility crash down. The story we had written together had ended. But the author had left me with a pen in hand, and I had no idea how to write the next chapter. I wandered through the city, not knowing where to go, seeking distractions that fell hollow. Cafes, parks, empty streets at night. I moved through them like a shadow, trying to escape the ache in my chest. Every couple that passed me hand in hand, every laughter that spilled into the air, felt like a reminder of what I had lost and what I had chosen to lose. And yet, underlying all of it, a faint pulse of possibility began to stir, whispering that perhaps this was the first step toward discovering who I truly was, beyond the confines of our shared history. It was a quiet, terrifying, exhilarating awakening. I had ended things, and he had honored it completely, and in that truth, I was left to confront the one thing I had been avoiding for years, myself. The days that followed Daniel's departure were surreal. At first, I had thought I would be relieved, free from the weight of a relationship that had grown stagnant. But reality was harsher, sharper than I anticipated. Each morning, I woke to the silence of our apartment, a silence that now seemed to mock me. The bed felt too big, the walls too close, and the absence of his presence pressed down on me like a physical weight. On the 5th day, I decided to go through the motions of life. Work, errands, emails. I kept myself busy, desperate to avoid the thoughts that threatened to consume me. And yet, everywhere I went, memories clung to me. A cafe table where we had shared our first pancake breakfast, the corner park where we had walked our dog, the movie theater where we had laughed at my worst jokes. Each place now felt hollow, a reminder of laughter and love that no longer existed. It was during one of these aimless walks that I saw him, Daniel, across the street, at a distance that felt too close and too far at the same time. He wasn't looking at me, not yet, but I recognized the silhouette instantly. The slight slump of his shoulders, the way his hands were tucked into his coat pockets. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I wanted to run toward him, to call out, to explain that leaving wasn't easy, that it was tearing me apart inside. But I didn't. I couldn't. I was frozen, trapped between longing and fear. Then, as if sensing my gaze, he turned. His eyes met mine, steady and unflinching. And in that instant, I saw not anger, not desperation, not regret, just clarity. Daniel had left because he had understood my words as final, yes, but also because he had known that holding on any longer would have been futile. His gaze was calm, piercing, almost merciless in its honesty. He didn't approach. He didn't speak. He simply walked past, leaving me rooted to the spot, breathless, heartbreaking in silent shards. That night, I lay awake, replaying the conversation in my mind. We should end things. Those words had been simple, almost casual in their delivery, but the weight they carried was immense. I had underestimated the power of finality. Daniel had not argued, not begged, not questioned. He had simply accepted them, acted upon them, and vanished from my life. The following days brought a quiet storm. Friends offered support, yet I found myself withdrawing. It wasn't that I resented them. It was that no one could understand the strange combination of loss and liberation I felt. Each message I ignored, each call I didn't return, felt like both a betrayal and a necessity. I was learning, painfully, that grief doesn't always look like tears. It can be the hollow ache in your chest, the sudden panic when a familiar ringtone doesn't belong to the one you lost, the disorienting sensation of time moving on without you. And then the unexpected happened. A package arrived at my door, no return address. Curious and cautious, I opened it, revealing a small notebook and a single note in Daniel's handwriting. "Emily, I don't know if this will help, but I wanted you to have a piece of us. Keep it, read it, or discard it, whatever you need. I hope it brings clarity, not pain." Inside the notebook were memories, short entries about moments we had shared, observations he had made, things he had loved about me. Each page was a reminder of the life we had, a bittersweet testament to what had once been perfect in its own way. I read through it slowly, tears streaming down my face, realizing that this was his way of saying goodbye, also of holding on to the good, refusing to let bitterness consume us both. It was that night I understood something essential. Closure doesn't always come from a dramatic confrontation or grand gestures. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in small, deliberate acts, in gestures that respect both the end and the beginning of something new. Daniel's walkout, his silence, the notebook, all of it was a final gift, a message that love can be both enduring and fleeting, and at the end a relationship doesn't have to erase the good that existed. Weeks passed. The apartment slowly felt less like a tomb and more like a space I could inhabit alone. I started going to the park again, sat at the cafe tables without flinching, walked past the movie theater without longing, and while the ache never fully disappeared, it became softer, like a shadow that no longer threatened to swallow me whole. Then, one quiet evening, as I prepared dinner for one, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Emily, I hope you're finding your way. I just want to know I'm okay, and I hope you are too. D." I stared at it, heart pounding, not with longing this time, but with something like peace. I typed a short reply. "I am. Thank you." And that was it. No further messages, no lingering conversations, no return to the past. Just acknowledgement, a quiet respect for what had been, and the courage to move forward. I learned that night, finally, that endings are not failures. They are a reckoning, a turning point, a chance to find the parts of yourself you had forgotten existed. Daniel had walked out, yes, but in doing so, he had also given me the space to step into a new version of myself. The life we had shared was over, but I was alive, still breathing, still capable of love, still capable of hope. And sometimes that is enough.